Hello and welcome to Outfront TV. I'm Jim Bronson, chairman of the Berkshire County Republican Association, of course. Our show is brought to you by the Berkshire County Republican Association, and it's a production of BCRA TV. I got to tell you, it's very hot out there, both politically and in the weather. And I hope you've stopped by our Third Thursday booth and maybe you bought a terrific fruit smoothie or a lemonade from one of us at the Berkshire County Republican Association. We do that every third Thursday in downtown Pittsfield. It's a great festival. You get to meet some candidates running for statewide and local office, and we sure would love to see you there. You'll probably see me making a lemonade or maybe even drinking one. But it is hot, and it's hot politically. It's so hot politically that we have two guests today. Our first guest is Kamal Jain. Maybe you can see this. A very qualified gentleman running for state auditor. Kamal, welcome to Outfront TV.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Kamal, actually. I promised I would get it right. So, folks, it's Kamal Jain. And I'll tell you, we had Mary Connaughton on once, and I had to write that down how to say. So, Kamal Jain. We'll get that right.
Thanks.
I can tell you this, that I saw Kamal at the Massachusetts GOP convention back in, I think it was in April. And the man is a whiz at PowerPoints. In fact, he had, if I remember, 4,700 charts. But he did a terrific job, and we're certainly pleased to have you. So, Kamal, tell us about yourself and why it is you want to be the state auditor.
Well, I mean, I'm a Massachusetts native. I've been here since I was 8 months old. I am an immigrant, though. I was born in New Jersey. So just don't hold that against me.
You right now.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'm a business guy. I'm a small business guy. I've spent 21 plus years working in the private sector, creating jobs and doing things better, faster, cheaper. That's what we have to do to survive. And it's not something that government is accustomed to doing. If you look at our state government, if you've seen the little chart that I've been promoting, our state government has continuously grown and grown and grown. And they keep telling us every year, oh, there's budget crises, we've got to cut to the bone. Well, what they're not telling you is they're replacing the previous bone with a bigger bone before they cut down to that bone. And the fact is that even this year, the state budget for 2011 is bigger than it's ever been before. And I spent 2 years researching state government spending over the last few years. And the reason was because I was a spokesperson for ballot question 1 in 2008 to end the state income tax. And as I researched and researched, I kept finding more questions rather than answers. I found reports rounded to the nearest $1 million. Now, I don't know about you. When I get home each evening after I'm out campaigning or working, I take my pocket change and I put it in a jar at the end of the kitchen counter. I don't round things to the nearest $1 million or even to the nearest dollar. Everything is exact.
To be fair, it'd be a happy problem to have.
It might be, except we're paying for it, and that's really the problem, right? So I started filing Freedom of Information requests or public records requests with the state comptroller's office. I went to the auditor's office first, and I said, I would like this information. They immediately said, we don't do financial auditing. You want the comptroller's office. So that was where I began to learn about the distinction between these divisions in government. And so the comptroller's office said, well, here's some big reports, the comprehensive annual financial report, here's your statutory report. Let us know if you have questions.
So let's bury you with paper and have a good day.
I've literally been through, at least that many reports, that many pages of reports. And again, more questions than answers. Why is it we have about $1 billion a week in government spending, about $1 billion a week? And that does not include county and municipal government. That is just our state government. Because we have on-budget spending and we have off-budget spending. So, for example, 2009 is the last year we have audited data for, right? Because there's always a delay from when we close the books to when we audit the books. We just ended fiscal year 2010. The comprehensive annual financial report for this year will be available December 31st or thereabouts of this year, reflecting back. And 2009, we found about $28 billion was the budget, and there was about another 18 to 22 billion in off-budget spending, depending on which report you look at and which page in the report you look at. There's some money in there for lotteries that you can probably discount and some various transfers, but it's a tremendous amount of money. It's about $50 billion or about $1 billion a week.
So the off-budget money, now that particular money wasn't included in our original, here's what the folks can see budget?
No, it hasn't been for decades. It's been a long-standing tradition. And I spent over the last 2 years confronting. In fact, 2 years ago, I was out here in Lee, and I did a debate with Michael Widmer from Mass Taxpayers Foundation. And I talked about that, and I was confronted and said, well, you can't talk about the off-budget stuff. That's not the budget. The budget is what we vote on every year, and that's all it is. The budget is a legally defined term that is the General Appropriation Act of each year. So we just passed the General Appropriation Act of 2010, which becomes the fiscal year 2011 budget. and it only counts the stuff that they allocate for general appropriations. It doesn't include overrides and special appropriations or any of the off-budget stuff, which is primarily federal and other types of funds.
Well, I was going to say, let's cast a little more light up for a second on that off-budget, expenditures. Are those mandates that, look, there's nothing we can do about this, or some of this slush fund, or some of each?
It's some of each, but the mandates are mostly from the state imposing on itself. Again, another argument I got into with legislators, they said, well, we don't have a choice. We don't vote on that every year because we're funding a program. Well, I said, but didn't you or your predecessors vote on that program? Well, yeah, we did, as they looked down at their shoes. And so more and more goes off budget. And this is something you've heard Charlie Baker talk about and Richard Desai and other Republican candidates. There's more and more money going off budget. But one thing that has not changed at all is we have no transparency and accountability in our government. And that is really quintessential and core to my campaign. I am masstransparency.com. That's how important it is to me. I mean, you can go to kamaljain.com too, but masstransparency.com is really where I want people to go.
That's your main website?
Yep.
I know that's one of the things we want to talk about is certainly your campaign's transparency as a main issue. But before we do that, let's just step back a second and explain to folks really what the auditor is. I bet you there's a little bit of confusion on what the view or the role of the state auditor is.
There is. Most people hear the word auditor and they immediately, either they worry it's an IRS auditor and they're going to get audited and they run. I have literally had people look scared when I tell them I'm running for auditor. I said, no, don't worry. We don't audit you. We audit the state on your behalf. But people hear auditor and they think financial auditing, they think accounting, bookkeeping, things like that. And in the private sector, that would be the truth. But in government auditing is a completely different thing. We do financial auditing, but that's handled by the state comptroller's office, as I mentioned earlier. And then there's some oversight from the inspector general, and there's some oversight from the treasurer, and there's some oversight from the auditor's office. There's a bunch of fingers that are involved in that. But if you look at the state's financial reports, they are published by the comptroller's office. So that's where traditional auditing goes. Government auditing is mainly about performance auditing, compliance auditing. So you're auditing the state agencies and the state vendors and contractors to see if they're complying with the spirit of the contracts, with the spirit of the law, and with the spirit of their individual agency's charter, for example. So if their charter is to produce, bluer pieces of paper, are they actually producing bluer pieces of paper, for example? And that's what the government auditing role is to do. And then to see in the middle of all that, how well are they doing it? Are they being effective and are they being efficient? Now, backing up a little more, as you know, auditing is by definition a spot checking process. So we have a state government that's about this big. And when I say this big, I mean over 83,000 full-time employees. Let me, as you can see my hands here,